us, let's jump on into the topic today. I have to say, this issue of how you connect digital strategy to digital delivery or execution or experiences is one of the most challenging that our enterprise clients are facing. And so when you think about digital transformation generally, you have to roll up your sleeves and make some hard choices and some big investments in order to really accomplish that goal. So how do you do that? How do you do it in a practical, pragmatic, mindful, collaborative way? Well, it turns out there is an approach, there is a strategy, there's an ability to do it. And it really starts with a motivation to do it, a desire to improve customer experience. And with competition really ramping up, with digital disruptors coming in from the left side, we ask at Forrester a lot about what your priorities are. To grow revenue, improve customer experience are the top two. And then we ask, well, how are you going to improve customer experience? And what actions are you taking? And what I think makes me happy, because I'm a digital guy, the top three improvements are digital. Number one, improving the online customer experience. That's web and mobile web, 55%. Adding or improving mobile customer experience, 41%. And improving cross-channel customer experiences, which is I think about 35%. So 39%. So it's a big sort of massive investment in digital. That doesn't surprise you, I'm sure, at all. But I think it's an important thing to keep in mind that when you're trying to bring people together to make things better, digital is going to be your most powerful tool, weapon, technology, capability. However, there's a challenge. And some of that challenge comes from big investments of the past. Think about websites being refreshed every 7 to 10 years in our research. And who owns digital customer experiences? Is it IT or marketing or business? Well, in a recent panel survey we did, it's everybody. It's not just one group. It's because customers engage not just through marketing, not just through client portal, not just through a single product. They engage across the board. So we've got this complexity, this organizational complexity, and this big technology investment. So we've got high urgency, we've got high organizational complexity, we've got high technical investment already. How do we get things done? Well, did a lot of work here over the last several years, and at Forrester we've been doing this work for many, like more than 15 years on customer experience, and there's a thing forming which is a journey map in software. And I want to show you that and introduce you to that as a tool to align people, bring them together, create prioritization. But to do that, I want to step back a little bit and walk you through this agenda of how does a customer journey map shape your tech strategy? How do you build the business case to prioritize interactions and prioritize your investments? And then what's the best way to achieve quick wins while building the platform for future agility? So we have this three-part story: strategy, business impact, and roadmap. For strategy, we're going to start with a journey map highlighting digital interactions. As we said, digital is the most important investment area. Business impact, we've got to prioritize capabilities in a very unique way, one that most companies are not very experienced at. And we're going to dive into that, but there's this this two-axis matrix that we build. And then lastly, on the roadmap, and this is where the technology and the process change management gets involved, is we need to make progress today while really laying a foundation, platforms for the future. And both are important here. Have to do them simultaneously. So let's start with strategy. If we start with strategy and break it away from business impact and roadmap, then we kind of do a pure analysis of customer impact. Where can we make the biggest difference for our customers? And to do that, you need to think a little bit about the scale of this effort. It's not just a bunch of projects. We're not just adding a little bit here and a little bit there. We're really thinking about how we serve a customer across every step of their life cycle, across every journey they take with us as a program. And it can be a multi-year program, and it can cost 10 or 50 or 100, or in some cases, $1 billion, 100 million that is, or $1 billion. This is not cheap stuff. If we lowball it, if we don't get that executive commitment to improving customer engagement, customer experience, we're going to do a bunch of one-offs. We're not going to create a holistic customer-first approach. So think program, and if you're not yet working in a program, you've got to start to align your budgets and align your projects in a broader landscape. And the best way to do that is with a journey map. If you know for your segments, your key personas, what steps they take with you, whether it's marketing or onboarding or customer service, or maybe they're engaging with you to accomplish a task, a journey map helps you map out the interactions and the sentiment and also the resources and systems you need to support that interaction, that engagement. So it brings coherence and prioritization. And then as a technologist, there are 4 technology inevitabilities that should shape your approach. Mobile, because over half the web traffic out there today is mobile, not to mention mobile apps. Cloud, which is a tremendous empowerer, creates much more agility. Insights driven. So let this be not just data driven, but insights driven. What impact are we having with a personalization strategy, for example? And then lastly, microservices, loose coupling. Use modern internet architectures, not old proprietary, all in a box, single software solutions. Journey mapping is really at the center of this. It's key to digital transformation. So Forrester defines journey map as a document that visually illustrates customers' processes, needs, and perceptions throughout their relationships with the company. It puts customers at the center of the strategy. It links customer benefit and business value to the digital touchpoint, to experiences. It cuts through politics and organizational silos, because when you look at the metrics of engagement and of satisfaction, you see where the blockers, the barriers, and the problems are. And then establishes outcome metrics for success. Very important to knowing how to measure the impact of improving that experience. So here is a wonderful picture of a journey map. It comes from Tandem 7, and it's one of the best I've seen. There's a couple of things we're going to dive into this in a lot more detail at the end. There's a couple of things I want to just point out. One is that it defines for a persona. This is a person named John Quincy. So it's not all customers. It's a subset of customers who has a particular issue. In this case, they're on the road more than they like, so the little things matter. And then there's a process, research a specific airline, book a flight, pre-travel, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's their sentiment or their desire. What are they thinking and feeling? Not just their actions they're taking, but how are they feeling about it? And then what are their experience ratings? And you could add other metrics in here like engagement levels or conversion rates or come to the site and leave rates. And then there is this notion of what's happening on the front end, here called the front stage, and that's what the experience is delivered by and kind of the interaction model. And then there's the backstage. How does the company actually service this interaction, this moment? How do they accomplish it? Who's involved? What technology is involved? What processes are involved? And when you've got all this on one page in software so you can share it with your whole team, you've got a very powerful unifying tool. And I think that's where journey maps are headed. Let's drill into some specific interactions here. I think this is a way to go a little bit deep into the specifics, because you do need to get specific in order to create your prioritization. So this is the Forrester customer lifecycle from the top: discover, explore, buy, use, ask, and engage. And I put some sample digital interactions and also how we would measure success. So for example, in the discover, we can improve dwell time and engagement in every channel. And the way we might do that is through a much more proactive personalization strategy. So we're actually assembling a dynamic profile based on every click. We learn a little more about what that person wants. That's an example. If I move down into the use step, this is an area of very hot investment right now about onboarding. How do I take somebody who's decided to be a customer and get them fully up and running on our platform, in our product, working with our service? And so onboarding is an extremely important, and digital plays a big part in onboarding. So maybe a mobile app is the way to do that. If we can bring them on faster, maybe we can make more money faster, so more profitable. These are examples of very specific touch points that would show up in a journey map analysis that you can look at to see the metric, how you're going to measure success, what it is, and how you're going to deliver it. A very powerful component of a journey map. So that's just a list here. And once we've done that, once we've done our ethnographic research to find our personas, created a journey map that we agree on, mapped it to our processes, assigned metrics, that's a lot of upfront work, but it's not do once work. It's a living document, an organic, breathing document. And that's strategy. That's where you create an agreement about all the things you might focus on. Now you have to prioritize. So how are you going to prioritize? There's two important things to remember here. One is, what will it accomplish for us if we're successful? And second is, can we pull it off? Can we accomplish it? And this is where technology becomes a critical element. You've got to bring technology in at this point, because if you can't do it, or if it takes too long to do, then you're not going to realize the benefit. So when you're thinking about revenue and profit, what at Forrester we call the age of the customer, profitable growth, there are three main places to focus. One we've already looked at, which is to reach customers along every step of their journeys. And there's lots of details behind this that we can talk about later. The second one really is serving customers in their mobile moments of need. This is language that Julie Osk and Josh Burnoff and I created when we wrote the Mobile Mindshift book last year. And we realized that the better you can understand the context of a customer in their moment of need, the better job you'll do in serving them. The more successful you will be in giving them what they need to take the next action. So reaching customers where they live in their mobile moments, whether it's web or app, or maybe it's an Internet of Things or a wearable scenario, that's a very important thing to ignite investment in your digital experience program. And then lastly, and this is often overlooked, is that practitioners and employees need tools to manage experiences. So the more self-service, the more empowered, the more capable, the more confident you can make your practitioners, merchandisers, marketers, product managers, salespeople, you name it, people that really focus on customer outcomes, they need tools. So this is a place where you can create tremendous efficiencies in things like workflow or A/B testing or personalization or client engagement, customer self-service. Think about the whole chatbot thing going on right now. That's very much about empowering a customer service agent to help a customer. They need great tools. So those are the three main places to really focus on. But now you need to prioritize. You need to map these interactions against two vectors. The up and down vector is customer benefit. If I build this thing, will my customer benefit from it? And the second is there value to my firm? Now we could name these quadrants. We could actually name them. We did in the Mobile Mindshift book. The top right was the just do it quadrant, and the bottom left was avoid for now. But the others are a little harder. If you're in the top left, there's massive customer benefit maybe. Like I'd love to put my own picture on a banking app, so it's not the bank's picture, it's my picture. That made me very happy. Is there business value in that? Maybe a little bit in loyalty, maybe a little bit in SAT, but not a lot of revenue. So we need to enhance the value in order to bring it up into that top right corner. Similarly, if you're in the bottom right, we want to go up to the top right corner. We have potential for big business value, but there may be low customer benefit. Think about replacing checkout staff in a store with self-service kiosks. Oy vey, what hassles these things have been, whether it's in grocery or home supplies. These things they're not a disaster at this point, but we've had 2-3 years to perfect them. So when we think about the customer benefit of that self-service checkout, we really need to think about the customer experience. I'll tell you personally, one place that really has done it quite well is customs, or I'm sorry, it's immigration. So when I'm a global entry, I can breeze through international immigration because the kiosks work really well, very fast. So we got to move up to make it more beneficial to a customer, which means we need to redesign it, and that might mean simplifying, and that might mean taking advantage of things like the camera on your phone. If I'm onboarding a customer, can I have them take a picture and digest that information, or am I going to force them to type it in? Well, it's kind of a no-brainer to take the picture. But to do that, you might have to actually invest pretty heavily in the technology. So in all these places, we're trying to drive to the upper right corner, because if we deliver something that's subpar, that doesn't benefit customers, they won't use it. they'll pick a different channel or they'll go elsewhere. And if it's low business value, then we're not going to sustain the investment in that interaction. So this is a way to have everybody's pet project be really held up against the light to say, does this make sense? Are we going in the right place here? And so a lot of our client engagement is to bring people from different parts of a company together to really do this collectively and look at it with clear eyes. And so to do that, we have a little, I think of it as a Cosmo quiz, a little simple questionnaire that you can use to sort of quickly calculate the benefit to customers and the value to the business, to your firm. And so this very quick thing that people can almost do off the top of their head will create a very simple, but I think helpful scattering of the touch points and the interactions across that matrix. And so again, it's a way to bring people together around a common understanding of what customers need and what value it will bring to the business. Okay, so there are a few things about this that are important. One is that digital really is a belief system. It's rarely a firm calculation. It's hard to calculate a hard business return. So you have to kind of say to yourself, well, my customers are there. Do I want to be there with them or not? The way Julie and I used to say to each other when we were writing the book was, you have a choice to make. Your customer is carrying your company around in their pocket, and you have a choice to either be there or not be there. So when you put it in stark terms, you realize that it is a belief that if we are there, then we're valuable and useful to our customer. If we're not there, then they're probably going to move on. We've already talked about assessing customer benefit, and the way to do that is based on research. You have to ask them or observe. You can't just guess, even though I gave you a quick questionnaire. You really do need to do the hard research. And you need to assess the business value, not just on return, because that's hard, but on reach, meaning how many customers will we affect if we do this well, and impact. Will we onboard a customer faster? Will we divert an expensive call center to a customer self-service a moment? And so think about reach, how many customers, and impact, what value to the firm. And that helps you really do that matrix properly. And then beware the ROI roadblock. ROI tends to be a red herring here because it's hard to assess return. And it's really hard to assess investment instead. So you're going to use Agile as a way around that. But you do have to focus on the cost. How much is it going to cost me to do this? So that's business impact, and it feeds back into strategy. The last piece of it, the third step, is the roadmap. And this is one where a lot of people get hung up because they think, well, I've been building out this thing and kludging this thing for so long, I really need to rip it out and start from scratch. And that may be true. It probably is true. But along the way, you have to improve experiences. You can't leave your customer for months or quarters or years with no improvement. That's not the road to success. So think about taking two paths simultaneously: quick win extensions and platform investments. And so let's talk about how to map that against the prioritization that we've done. It will help us to use an example. So let me give you an example of two different kinds of personalization. The first kind I think of as marketing personalization. So I don't have a complete picture of my customer yet. They're not a customer yet, but I might have some data, some third-party or second-party data. I might have some first-party data. They might be clicking on my website. So how can I improve my experience based on those clicks? Well, I can do that with a DMP, sort of not just a CRM system, but really a data management platform that allows me to build a profile. And it can be a dynamic profile that I assemble as I learn more. Now, I can do that without ripping out my web content management system, probably. I can probably extend it or augment it or maybe even just turn it on if I have it and haven't used it. But I can certainly use a cloud-based personalization point solution. Even in a regulated industry, there are ways to do this without PII, without personally identifiable information. So I can do a quick win extension to create a behavioral or marketing personalization. But I can go much deeper with customer personalization. But to do that, I'm going to have to do a lot more work, a lot more integration to the CRM system. Maybe I tie into the loyalty database, the program. I want to pull across the entire spectrum of engagement, client portal, not just public, across all my touch points. So Target has recently done this to offer better experiences and better recommendations on a mobile app by using online data and in-store point-of-sale data so that they can really refine that recommendation to that person. So that's a much harder thing to do. And to do that, you're going to have to build a new platform probably and a lot more integration. You're going to have to lay the groundwork to dramatically improve customer personalization. So, and we can do both simultaneously. So once we've done the prioritization around customer benefit and business value, now we're going to map that over to the technical solutions. What's the technical cost and what's the time to implement? And I would just say that marketing personalization is a lot easier and cheaper and faster than customer personalization, just to give you that example. So I can do an extension while I'm laying the foundation, spending the big bucks to build out that platform for future agility and real customer value. So let's just take a quick look at some examples of quick win capabilities over a multi-year, in this case, year 1 and year 2. I can, for example, track behavior on my existing web properties with tag management. I can insert a tag, I can start tracking it, I can start building that profile, I can measure things like dwell time and the connection time people go from one page to another. I can start to understand my customer better. And I can use cloud to do that. I can also put content marketing tools into marketers' hands. My colleague Ryan Skinner spends a lot of time looking at this. By the way, James McCormick is the guy to talk to about tag management. But content marketing, Ryan Skinner says, we can augment or extend or really make marketers more successful by building one of these tools or implementing one of these tools that allow them, marketers, to really get a handle on content marketing. Then I can also do things like we were talking about clickstream data to personalize, and we can also mobile enable a home page or a product page much more effectively using responsive or adaptive web techniques, which is something my colleague Mark Grannon looks at a lot as well. So those are kind of quick wins. To lay the platform, though, this is a multi-year effort. There are a lot more capabilities, from implementing a modern web content management system, a modern marketing platform, a modern commerce server, a lot of capabilities that require bigger investments. Now, those investments don't have to be all on premises. You can use the cloud, but there's a lot of work you're going to have to think about doing. And maybe some of it's really hard to do. If you've got a merchandising system or an inventory management system or a content workflow that has lots and lots, maybe thousands of people involved with it, you're probably not going to rip that out. But you're going to put a new face on it, a new last mile. We call it contextual delivery. And I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. But there's a lot more functionality. And I will say that agility requires this. You can't be agile on an old architecture. You will have to implement a new set of platforms. We call it a digital experience platform in order to create the foundation for rapid incremental changes for agility. It sounds a little counterintuitive, but until you get the experience architecture right, you're kind of stuck in a very complex technical environment that does not allow you to move quickly. So take these two paths simultaneously. All right, so a few thoughts on technology roadmap. We have to feed this technical reality back into the strategy. That's why it's important to have a multidisciplinary team. We think of it as two-in-a-box leadership for a program. We've got a marketing and business executive, and we have a technology executive, and they are partnered to be successful with the program because we need to know if we can accomplish it. So feed that reality back into strategy. This link between interactions and technology will help a lot because we have a one-to-one mapping between customer benefit business value, that is the interaction, and technical cost and time to implement. So that helps create that linkage. And then really don't kid yourself. Quick wins are big wins. They create momentum. They create success. So ride them, find them, and ride them. However, simultaneously, you're going to have to fund your new experience architecture. You're going to have to think about what it takes to lay that foundation for agility. And so I'd like to sort of dive into that part next. At Forrester, we define this as a digital experience platform. It's software to manage, deliver, and optimize experiences consistently across every digital touchpoint. So it is a big honking amount of software. And when you look at it, and here's the picture, it looks like a big packaged application. It's a big CRM system or something. It's not. It's a loosely coupled 4-tier architecture. So at the top, I don't know if you can see, oops, didn't want to do that. If you can see my mouse here, the touch points are where you're aiming. You're aiming for desktop web and mobile web, tablet, maybe it's a mobile app, maybe you have a kiosk, maybe there's a chat session going on, it could be a watch, there could be a call center person, there's lots of touch points, and they're digital. This is the last mile problem. And then we need to deliver in the next tier down, the delivery tier. That first tier is the client tier. The delivery tier is contextual delivery, what I call at the glass. When you think about what people do, they touch glass or they touch a mouse or a keyboard, and what they're experiencing is content, very content-rich experiences. So we need that content to be in the context of the individual. What do we know about them? What information is going to be most helpful to them? Can I use pictures to dress it up and create deeper engagement, more emotional attachment? I need that context. And then below that, in the third tier, we kind of have the application or aggregation tier. We've got marketing, so outbound. We've got commerce, which is the purchase process. We've got customer service, both assisted and self-service. We might have automated service through a bot. And then the fourth tier is really the foundation or services tier. Customer data, content are big building blocks. Other services, of course, it could be something like payment or fulfillment. And then along the side, we've got things that span the whole stack, the whole architecture. On the left, we've got analytics and insights. And a lot to say here, and we can maybe take some of that offline, but you want to have every touch point instrumented for success. You want to build analytics into your process so you know if you're being successful. And then lastly, not every solution is packaged. It's not out of the box. You're going to be tailoring your experience to your service, to your offering, to your capability, to your unique differentiation. So these are coding platforms to create those unique experiences. And so that's over on the right-hand side. This whole thing, you can think of it as a platform, or you can think of it as an architecture where the building blocks are sort of internet first. They're loosely coupled. They're APIs, RESTful APIs that sit between these layers and boxes. There's what we call a microservices architecture behind it. And if you take that approach, you get a lot more agility, a lot more ability to extend, a lot more opportunity to really rip out a small piece of it without having to take down the whole stack. This is a very different approach than you used in the past. This takes advantage of internet scale, internet quality, cloud-hosted solutions. I do have a question that came in, and I think I will answer it now along the way. There's a question about the last mile problem. So let's think about it this way. I've got a company that's been operating for a long time, and it has lots of processes and lots of people and lots of systems of record and transaction systems and databases. And now I've got this digital touch point. When the web first came along, we treated it as, I don't know, I don't want to be unkind here, but kind of as a bubble on the side or an extra appendage. We didn't quite know what to do with if we were a big traditional company. Now, some companies embraced web quickly. Think about brokerage or travel, hospitality, media, embraced websites quickly. But a lot of companies just treated it as a catalog. Here's our stuff. Hope you like it. Now with digital engagement, that's not the strategy. The strategy is to have a deeply embedded direct to end user, direct to customer model. That's what digital allows us to do, to be in our customer and our end user's pocket. So how do we do that? Well, we can't rip out 50 or 20 or 15 years of stuff. We have to put another layer on top of it. And that layer is this last mile capability. So we build APIs to our systems of record. We build what John McCarthy and I called systems of engagement. Back in 2012, we put that term out there again. And that's the last mile, is that digital extension to my core processes, my core capabilities. And I was talking to a company recently, an insurance company, and they had a very interesting kind of way of thinking about it. They said, we want to put everything that our customer needs into their hands. So we don't want to have an intermediary between us and our customer. So our API strategy is to make our customers able to interact with our claims, and we'll actually change our claims processing process based on what we know about that customer, what their needs and expectations are. That's a last mile problem. That's an ability to take what you've done forever and make it available to any digital touch point, any screen, in the most appropriate, contextual, personal way possible. And so that's what we have to do, is create this enrichment of the experience that sits on top of my systems of record in order to engage my customer directly in their moment of need. And so that's what we mean by the last mile. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so how are you going to build one of these things? I mean, look at it. It's big. It's got lots of moving parts. It should be global. You shouldn't have one of these in every product or one in every region. You should really have a shared service model for many, many, many of these building blocks. If you look at USAA, for example, they have a customer database that's across all their products. If you look at what the pharmaceutical companies are doing, they are consolidating their product pages so they can make the marketing materials available in every country. Schneider Electric doing the same thing with its product information and data sheets. So a lot of moving parts here. How are you going to assemble it? How are you going to lay these platforms? Well, certainly no single vendor has everything you need today, but all the vendors out there are going to pitch you as if they can do it all for you. They all have an answer for how they're going to add this and that and the other thing to make you successful across all your touch points and every step of the customer journey. Don't buy it. It's not true. We are, I'm guessing, 10 years away from a fully packaged capability. So we're going to have to do something different. We're going to have to integrate these last mile building blocks, the digital experience platform. And it's going to be your demon because a lot of the legacy is not ready for integration. Integration is the #1 blocker to success, both front-end integration across the touch points and capabilities, and back-end integration into the systems of record. So plan to use the cloud and plan to use RESTful integration. That is, use internet first. It's XML over HTTP for those of you that follow this stuff. It's been around for a long time, but it's now reached critical mass. So use RESTful integration, loose coupling, stateless integration. You'll have to make bigger platform bets. You're going to have to spend more money here. This is not going to be free. We do have clients who are spending over a 5-year period, projecting to spend $20, $30, $40, $50 million. And if you look at the whole impact of all of that back-end integration for digital transformation, companies like Home Depot and Morgan Stanley are spending billions of dollars, billions. So think about a larger scale of investment, because if you're not digital and your competitor is, it kind of won't matter what you do. Think radically different about digital engagement. But look, you may not have all the skills. Your need may be very urgent. So you're going to have to think about service providers, about partners. My colleague Anjali Akundi leads a survey. We do this panel survey. And one of the questions that we ask is, do you use service providers, agencies and systems integrators and folks like Tandem7 to build these digital experience platforms, these web and mobile and digital touch points and experiences? And guess what? 84% of enterprise respondents say, yes, I do. I use expertise, I use companies, I use partners to be part of this for me. And so don't be afraid of that. In fact, they're probably more in touch with what's going on with some of the advances and some of the vendor hassles than you could ever be. So I want to come back and drill into some examples and some impact here. So I shared this journey map with you. I really do think it's a beautiful thing because it ties the steps and the actions and the sentiment and the ratings, which could have all kinds of metrics here in this layer, to the front stage, that is what people are doing and touching, to the backstage, which is your processes and your systems and your data systems, in order to really deliver on that touch point, to make that touch point successful. And as you can see, these ratings go up and down. You know, we start kind of, neutral and go high, and then we go low during booking, and then we're kind of flat and low again during travel, and then high again during the flight. So how do we improve things? Let's just drill into a specific. Let's take this sort of fat middle to the booking and pre-travel and blow it up and look at it. So I just highlighted a couple things here. It looks like cross-sell promotions are getting in my way. Not a surprise. It also looks like creating an account and joining a loyalty program might slow me down, so I'm going to skip it. You would know this because you asked. You did research. You created this persona, you identified these people, and you asked them, would you do this? How would you feel about it? And then we can actually measure success. We can run a survey post experience and say, how's it going? And people can say, well, not so happy with this one. So this would allow somebody who really is thinking about, in this case, a loyalty program, how to improve the experience to create more loyal customers, to bring more people into the loyalty program. So it's going to surface insights that decision makers that are driving revenue generating actions like a better loyalty program to look at it and go, wow, I didn't realize the problem was that big. How can we improve it? Let's think together how we can improve that essentially onboarding process so we can more easily attract and retain somebody into our loyalty program. So again, the journey map provides the context, the alignment, the measurement, and the specifics to know where to drill in. So to me, a great example of how to grow revenue. Another example, and this is the same picture, but now let's drill into the in-flight experience. So I'm going to blow up this part of it here. And that looks like this. And I called out a sentiment and an action that this person noticed the use of Apple Pay to buy food and drinks on the plane. Well, remember this guy, John, travels a lot, and he's a iOS customer, it looks like, and he lugs his Apple Pay, and so what the heck? Why do I got to haul out my credit card? Here's my phone, boom, click, I'm done. And he feels good about that. He's impressed that I can use Apple Pay in flight using the in-flight Wi-Fi, presumably. Maybe, in fact, in-flight Wi-Fi is free to this guy because he's using Apple Pay. So how can we take advantage of that? Well, if we optimize that experience, and we notice this, we can do things that will make it more efficient and more successful because we've paid attention to the impact that this action, this capability had. Now, that's good. The same could be true if it was failing. If they noticed the use of Apple Pay, but it didn't work very well. So we can find where it's not succeeding. And those have to do with profit because we've already booked a ticket, but now we're trying to upsell to food during the flight. And so that incremental revenue drives profit. And so in both revenue and in profit, journey maps can play a very powerful role. Now, I don't know about your companies, but the companies that we work with, almost everybody falls into one of those two buckets. Either they care about revenue or they care about profit. And the journey map unifies both kinds of people to create the most powerful and successful customer experience. So that's an example of how journey maps can really link strategy through business impact assessment at the touchpoint level to a roadmap for implementation, and then really a feedback loop to optimize, and so we can continue to improve it. In fact, we should probably add that arrow back in here. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. It's a very interesting thing going on. These journey map and software is a great unifying tool. It's actually going to be the subject of my forum keynote in Florida. We're doing, I think it's the 10th of May at our Digital Transformation Forum. So just to summarize, use a journey map to highlight digital interactions and do it in software. Use a software journey map. I think of it as an interactive journey map, actually. Then prioritize capabilities, the interactions for customer benefit and business value, and make sure we're pushing up to that upper right-hand quadrant. Take two paths, quick win extensions and platform investments for agility. And then lastly, use a partner to plug your gaps in strategy, in analysis, and certainly in implementation. So that kind of sums up our story here. Strategy, business impact, roadmap, unified through the journey map to revisit and improve the strategy over time. So there it is. I want to open up to more questions and really take this wherever you'd like to take it. Okay, I do see some questions coming in here. Yeah, why don't you all lob your questions into the chat window, and I will take some of the ones that have come in over the course of the call. So, yeah, this is a great question. So, doing the whole journey map is too much at once. We tried it once; it was too expensive. It kind of didn't really go anywhere. Can we shrink it down a little bit? Can we zero in on some things that are more immediately accessible? So, will this process work for smaller journeys or subsets of a journey? And the answer is absolutely yes. And a popular one I actually alluded to a few minutes ago, it's the onboarding journey. How do I bring somebody from a decision to purchase to really becoming a full-fledged invested customer? And so we can take that piece of it, that slice of the journey and those touch points, and we can zero and focus in on that. That is the benefit of a narrower group of people. It's still a lot of technology systems, but it's a smaller number of stakeholders perhaps, and that creates more alignment and maybe more agility in making decisions and moving forward. So you can identify those journey segments, if you like, steps in that overall journey. Another way to do it is to focus in on a high-value customer. So not all customers maybe, but loyal customers, or maybe it's millennials, or maybe it's brand new customers. And so by creating a persona, a segment, we can zero in on the journey for that group, which may be quite different from the journeys for other groups. So those are kind of two ways to do it. So another question here on companies that sort of feel like they're offline businesses, can they transition to become a digital business? So if my traditional model is to build products and sell through a direct sales force or maybe through distribution, can I become digital? And the answer is absolutely yes. Here's the main thing. The main thing is that you want to get your product into the hands of the end customer or user. If you can have a direct relationship with that end customer or end user, maybe it's an engineer if you're a manufacturer building equipment for whatever, for cars, you want to get your information and your digital engagement into that auto engineer or that plant engineer's hands. This is what Schneider Electric has done with its products. And so that's a direct to consumer, direct to customer, direct to end user type model. And digital is critical there, because I'm cutting out the intermediary. I'm cutting out the paper trail. I'm cutting out the distributor who calls the wholesaler who calls the company. I go directly to that end user with my information, with my assistance. This is massively disruptive. When you look at the distribution supply chain, for example, for office supplies, it's being massively disrupted by Amazon, cutting out, in some cases, 3 tiers of distribution. And so an offline company that builds, you name it, desks or paper binders or pens, going directly to that end buyer through Amazon, that's a huge change in the model. This is true for every single industry that we touch. And we have a little map, a prioritization of digital transformation or digital disruption by industry, and you'll see everybody's on it, although certainly they're on different places. So I think those are some examples you can look at. As far as companies that have been broadcasting this, a lot of the Internet of Things stories have been about this as well. So General Electric has a really nice story that it tells here about becoming a digital business. So that's an example. Do we have other questions out there? I don't suppose any questions are coming in by phone, right? They're all coming in by chat. Yeah, let me drill into a couple of others here that have come in. One is about analytics. So what we saw was sentiment, satisfaction analytics there. There are also real-time analytics. When you think about, and my colleague, I'm going to get her name right. I'm going to be very careful. Her name is Joanna Vandenbrink Quintila. So it's a wonderful name. That's Dutch and Portuguese. So she writes a lot about interactive journey maps, journey mapping software, and journey analytics, along with some other colleagues, Maxi Supermani and Schmidt, for example. Tina Moffat is another colleague. So we have a lot of people focused in on these analytics. The thing about analytics is, and I've done a lot of work here with Brian Hopkins and James McCormick as well. I'm throwing out these names just to let you know that I'm not a single voice here. I'm part of a really big, Forrester team. But when you think about analytics, you need to define the metrics. What metrics have we agreed will characterize success? And there's lots of them. And we need to get agreement on those so that we instrument the application or the touch point, the mobile app, the website, whatever it happens to be, the content item, so that we can measure success. And then we want to actually make those insights available to anybody that needs it. We want to democratize the data, democratize the insight, so it's available on a dashboard. And when you're looking at web analytics, that's pretty well done. You can implement a web analytics solution today. But what about other kinds of analytics? What about where I want to show that an activity that happened over here in customer self-service actually had an effect on loyalty? How do I create attribution amongst my analytics? To do that, that's a big data problem. That's where I need to do a lot of careful thinking about the end metrics and the interim metrics and the links between them. And that's the subject of a forthcoming report that Brian Hopkins and James and I are writing called The Insights-Driven Business. So this is a work in progress, and I would say tying those into the interactive journey maps is probably, it's happening, but kind of in a manual way today, and we'll have to start sort of building a more connected software tool for journey mapping. So I'm not sure how much longer we want to talk, probably I guess right up to the end if we want to do it. So I do have a few more questions that are coming in. So I'll just kind of keep going until somebody tells me otherwise. But this is a great one. I'll answer this one. Where can we find your book, The Mobile Mind Shift? So here, let me do this. I'll kind of put I'll click to the next slide. There you go. So you can kind of see my my vitals. So The Mobile Mind Shift is a book that Julie Osk and Josh Burnoff and I wrote, and it's available on Amazon and 1-800-CEO reads, and ping me and I'll send you a link or something to it as well. So it's a cool book because it really zeroes in on mobile, but it addresses a lot of the things we're talking about: iterative improvement, identifying those moments of engagement, designing a solution, designing engagement, engineering a solution, analyzing to optimize, and that's a cycle. IDEA, it's the idea cycle. So a very powerful message in there. So thanks for asking that. Yeah, how much time and money roughly did it take to make the journey mapping showcase today? I don't have a good answer for you, Fred, on that one. You're going to have to talk to a company that does this kind of interactive journey mapping, but it's not cheap and it's not easy, but it's well worth it. But I say not cheap, I don't mean it's going to cost you, $5 million. But if you think about creating personas, that starts with a lot of customer insights, digital insights and customer insights. You then need to figure out what each of those personas does with you. And so if you focus on a subset of the journey, like acquisition, like marketing, or customer service or onboarding, that narrows it down. But you still need to identify those touch points and those interactions and those desires and those gaps in capability and those sentiments. So you have to do research. Then you have to put it into a picture, a software picture. That's easy. That doesn't cost very much money. And then you need to actually build agreement and alignment around it. So you need to make it available to people. And that doesn't take a lot of dollars, but might take time. You might have to really think through because you might be missing something. Somebody might say, well, we got to work on that process in order to fulfill that touch point, to make somebody successful in that moment. Well, that means we need to bring that process person into the upfront work so that they help set the strategy. So it becomes like a bit of an iterative kind of thing. So I don't know if that helps at all, but I don't think you can do it in a few weeks. I think it's probably a few months, and it's not going to be hundreds of dollars. It might be tens of thousands of dollars in order to, or even $100,000 or more dollars to do it properly, depending on how much research you do. So. A question on recommendations for journey mapping software. So I will say that I'm extremely excited, as I'm a software guy, so I'm very excited about seeing this tool come to life. But my colleague Joanna has the report you want to read on it. So send me an email and I'll send you that report, and she has a list. And a lot of these companies are agencies or implementers. Some of them are software companies, but they're very small. So I think we're in the early days of really software-powered or interactive journey maps. But we do have a list of vendors that can do it, and we can send you that list afterwards if that's helpful to you. So just send me an email on that. So Oh, I'm getting a message here. It looks like from Steve. So the Forrester report on journey mapping software, that's Joanna's report, is available on the Tandem 7 website for a free download. So, okay, good. That report's then available to you. Just go grab it. So, yeah, I kind of think maybe just one last question that I've got here, in case folks have other questions, that's fine. But I think maybe the last question for me is, what groups within a company are working together on digital experience strategy and execution? So I think it depends. It varies a little bit based on the kind of company you are. So in a lot of more B2C companies, very often it's marketing and the channel group, the e-business group, and IT often working together. But that group is expanding to include merchandising and inventory management and store operations when we think about omni-channel. So the group is expanding. In a more sort of business-to-business scenario, like a manufacturer or somebody doing retail financial services, this tends to be a group that's a little more about the digital engagement. So it might be a partner group. It might be, so if you're managing agents, for example, and IT, typically IT is almost always involved, I would say, should be always involved. But marketing may not be as deeply involved in that case. But in any case, you don't want to do this from within a single group. It has to be multidisciplinary because it needs to reflect the entire ability to serve the customer. The last mile, the front stage, the backstage, the systems of record, the whole thing has to come together in order to fulfill the customer's need, a customer's immediate need in that moment. So the group is expanding. And a lot of times, a lot of these sessions I'm doing now are with the executive team, usually the kind of the operating committee. So it could be the CFO, COO, CMO, CIO, and head of products, for example. That's a typical executive group that might come together to do one of these, kind of workshops and assessments. Now they'll delegate down, of course, but it really is being that leveled up. So, okay. I mean, I think that's it. I think that's about all I got for today.
Great questions, everyone. Tandem 7 would like to thank you all for participating today, and a very big thank you to Ted for sharing his time and expertise. That was wonderful.